Good evening. Hello there, Paul. You weren't too early by much. Just a few seconds. Wild Bill, how you doing? Well, Paul and Wild Bill are here. We got 5 viewers currently. We're going to wait. See if we can get up another 5 or 10 viewers. This is going to be a feature roll tonight. It's going to be a 1946D roll. This is a tubed roll. It may or may not be in the same order that the original roll had come in, but I do believe this is an original roll. So we'll see what it works out to be. Our weather sure has calmed down a lot. I thought it was forecast of rain all night long, and it just didn't happen. It may later, but the rain's over for now. You are in this one, Wild Bill. I do know that to be a fact. Faux show. Looks like a lot of people are out to dinner or already in bed or something. Is this a good time? Is 9 o'clock a good time? 9 o'clock Eastern anyway? I know, Paul, it's not 9 o'clock, but it is to me and Wild Bill. Wild Bill's only a couple 100 miles away from me. He's somewhere down in South Carolina, and I'm up here in North Carolina. Don't know how you missed this one. I think, Steve, you tried to get in on this one, and you were just a smidget too late. And we had a lot of people trying to get in on this roll. I limited it to 2 coins per person, but we still... we had a flat 25 people within 3 seconds, so it wasn't easy. Hello, Mr. McBride. How are you doing today, Joe? So 9 o'clock seems to work. Okay. Well, I'm trying to work on a schedule where I can do my Wednesdays and Thursdays. I can do a noon, 3, and 9 p.m. That way I've got the entire evening to go look at houses or do whatever I need to do or be around so that my wife can say that I spent time with her and that sort of thing. So we've got our flip inserts done. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the roll. So I got an empty bag. I got 50 names here. I'm going to put my 50 names inside the empty bag. Everybody hear me just fine? Am I broadcasting? For some strange reason, we've only got 5 people in here right now. I kind of figured that we would have more, but that's fine. I don't care. That's fine. Okay, so this is a tubed roll. More so than not, the coins look pretty good. This is a 1946D roll. My hands are definitely clean. My scope is in place. And let's go ahead and grab for coin number 1. CVS will get coin number 1 in this roll. Got a bunch of double die obverses, bunch of double die reverses. Got all kinds of things to be looking for in this. There's some pretty nice RPMs. Number of the double die obverses are either going to be... I see this was at the end of a roll. Ooh, yuck. I hope we don't run into that again. Alright, CVS, you're going to get credit on this one. I'm not going to charge you for this. But we'll look at it anyway. It's a very nice reverse. Just the obverse is kind of scratched up from a counting machine. Hello, Mr. Dunn. So a number of the double die reverses, we're going to be looking in the area on and around the wheat lines and the wheat greens. Okay, coin number 1 there was a nothing coin. CVS, if you see this, when you see this, send me an email, cd@coppercoins.com, and we will arrange for you to get credit for this particular coin. Hey there, we have an RPM. I just saw this die crack and was like, whoa, cool, die crack. No, but we have an RPM. Take a look at this. See that lower serif? It's a nice split on that lower serif right there. So we do have an RPM. Has a very wonderful marker. Has this nice big long die crack going across the coat. It's a very nice condition coin. A little piece of plastic or something laying on the coin there. Bye-bye. Okay, so there's the obverse. That's going to be die number 1 for the roll. Die number 1 for the roll is going to be coin number 2 belonging to Shannon McCord. And looks like we have nothing else going on here. You know, my concurrent viewers doesn't change. And now I realize I probably got a lot more than 5 people in here. But I'm still showing 5. Because, well, my YouTube is stupid. Alright, let's take a look at coin number 3. Coin number 3 will go to Sureg. And Sureg will get this coin, coin number 3 in the roll. Does not appear to be an RPM, does not appear to be a double die. How about the eyelid? Nothing on the eyelid. Let's look around at the rest of the obverse. Yeah, I'm thinking die wear on that L. Hello again. That's weird that mine doesn't change, but everybody else's does. And I'm the one broadcasting here, so you would think they would want to make sure I know what's going on. I'd be just as well not even watching that screen at all. Alright, so here's coin number 3. And that one is a normal coin for Sureg. Even a normal coin on these is worth decent money. I mean, 1946D is not the most common. This coin number 4. And coin number 4 is... Let me check the upper lid of the eye here. Okay, got nothing there. Let's keep looking around. Got nothing there. Let's flip it over and take a look at the reverse. See if there's anything on the reverse of this one. And as we plod through the reverse, we find nothing. Just had to look at that N again, just to be sure. Well, my dinner was fantastic. Properly spiced, seasoned, and everything else, and everything tasted really good. And here's a secret to this. You cook your beans, like a 15-bean mixture. You can cook pinto beans or whatever kind of beans you want to do. You cook them overnight in a crock pot. You just leave them there. The next coin in the roll, coin number 5, goes to Andrew O'Neill, Black Cloud Mining. They do have pretty nice color. There's a couple of few spots, little tiny spots and stains here and there, but man, nothing really bad. These are pretty nicely colored coins. So you cook your beans overnight. Make sure you do a good job of cooking your beans overnight. Then you take a long one of those, I don't remember the name brand, but Tyson's one. I think Tyson is one. I don't remember. But it's one of those smoked sausages that's a really long one that's looped over once. It's probably about 1.5 feet long. So you take that and you cut it into little bits. I cut it into slices and quarters. And you fry that in a pan with about a tablespoon of garlic. This is for a full crock pot worth of beans. About a tablespoon of garlic and a small onion cut into little bits, and about 1/4 of a stick of butter. Cook all that up, put a little bit of hot sauce in it, put a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in it. You put a little bit of flavored salt in it, like Lowry's. What that's going to do is it's going to make a kind of salty mixture of meat and spicy vegetables. You take that, and when your beans are just getting soft, just getting to the point where they're almost ready to serve, they're going to be really bland because you just cook those in a little bit of salt water, so there's not a whole lot of salt in those. But you pour that meat mixture after you've fried it in a frying pan, fry it all together. You drop that into the beans after you've cooked it. And man, that just adds all kinds of flavor to the whole thing. Here's another RPM. This is a different RPM from the last one. It has a split upper and lower serif. I think you can see that. But I'm going to move in just in case. It could be that you're not watching it on a large screen TV. Now you are. Now you can see the split on the upper serif and the lower serif here. Relatively nice little RPM. It's kind of minor, but it's nice. It's got a double split serif. We will get it listed if it's not listed already. This one's kind of fantastic looking coin too. It looks to be on a very, I'm not even going to say it yet. Don't say it till you see it. All right, now I can say it. It's a very high-grade coin. It's a very nice high-grade coin. This one's going to go to John Brandon Bow. Check this out. That is an excellent 1946 D Lincoln cent, folks. Yeah, there's a few little marks on it here and there. I mean, that's not... I don't think that's going to keep it out of a 66 grade. I think this one's going to be a solid 66. Of course, a 66 doesn't have a whole lot of premium value, but it's still a very nice coin. So just to show you that. So this is die number 2 for the roll. John Brandon Bow is going to get the first one. It's coin number 7. Now let's take a look at coin number 8. See what happened on coin number 8 at the mint. Paul Hampton. Paul, this one's yours, bro. This is another one. No, this is actually appears to be a different RPM altogether. We've got both serifs split on this one. Very nice looking little RPM. I'm going to need to start getting markers for these things so we don't start getting them confused. So I'm going to start looking for markers on this. I see one already, but it's not a very good one. I'll look around and see if I can find a better marker. This is not die number 1 because die number 1 had the big die crack going across the vest. And here it looks like we have a pair of very small die scratches between the fold of the shoulder and the lapel going straight across. You can see them right there in the center. They're in the, like the very center of your screen right now. Let me dull this down just a little bit, make it a little easier to see these features. There, now you can see the one. It's right up at the top of your screen. You can see it really well. Also appears to be a couple of little die dots down in that same area of the coat, down toward the truncation of the bust. We got us a nice little split upper serif and split lower serif RPM here. This is going to be die number 3 for the roll. Got a die number 3 for the roll. Hopefully we don't run into another 1949S debacle here where we've got 17 different RPMs in one roll. Take me 2 weeks to go through all of them. They're very clean coins, very nice looking coins. Okay, there's a good marker for die number 3. You have a dot connecting the E in the dot. Ani pluribus unum. Don't have a whole lot on these. I mean, these coins are pretty clean looking. Pretty clean looking dies. Very good production day for the United States Mint. 1946, the year after World War II ended. It's the year my parents were born. CM Silver, coin number 9. And on this one, we do not have an RPM. Looks like no hub doubling on the obverse. This one's kind of a late die state coin. We do have an abrasion mark on the top of the cheek. That's just from stacking. That's not wear. Wear doesn't come on so abruptly. It doesn't have sharp edges. So this is a very late die state reverse now. It goes with the late die state obverse. And that'll be coin number 9. Coin number 9 to CM Silver. Now we're going to go on to coin number 10. Take a look at coin number 10. See what we've got for Paul Hampton. These coins are all nice and red. Oh, look, there's another RPM. That's another example, I believe, of die number 3. We'll check for that die scratch right there on the coat. We've got our little die dot down below the die scratch. So we're doing Morse code out of die scratches on the part of the coat between the shoulder fold and the lapel. So it's that one little area right at the edge of his chest. So this is the same die. We should have a die marker on the E of E pluribus unum, where the center of the E will be connected to the dot. That should be the case, and it is. Just one of those things that you do when you're going through these rolls. You have to remember. You have to have a pretty good memory. You have to be able to tell yourself stories or whatever it takes to ingrain the different dies in your memory. And if you do that, as you're going through the roll, you will be less likely to miss things, and you will be more likely to get through the roll in a faster period of time, which is required of what I'm doing, because I have to go through these coins relatively quickly to get the show done inside of an hour, which I've not been successful at doing so far today. Okay, we have another coin that is not a die variety here. This one appears to be the same as the other late die state coin that we just saw not long ago. It did not have anything special on it. This appears to be that same die again. Try to get a marker off of it. Marker hunting 101. Okay, there's some east and west die scratches on the nose, but I don't want to use that. Here we go. There's a good marker. Big old die crack up in the head. Okay, so this is a normal obverse, and the reverse is a late die state. Going to be too late to really see anything minor. And there's nothing major there. So Sir Egg will get coin number 11. Coin number 11 is a normal coin. Hello, Majestic. Now for coin number 12. Coin number 12 is Mike Birchman. Mike Birchman and coin number 12. We have another RPM. This is going to be die number 1 for the roll. Got that big giant die crack running across the bottom of the vest, and we got a nice lower split serif RPM. So this will turn out to be a nice original roll of 1946D. I like it. 18-hour day. Gosh, I don't know how you guys do it. There's no way. I can't even stay up 6 hours without a nap. I guess I'm approaching retirement age. Wife was talking about earlier today when we graduated high school, this and that, and this was that and that. And I said, yeah, but that was 35 years ago. She said, no, it wasn't. I said, I don't know, do your math. Wow, it was 35 years ago. Wow. Actually, you know, for you, hon, it was 37 years ago, because you're a couple of years older than me. It's like, you don't have to remind me of that. Okay, this is another one of the RPMs. This one right here, die number 1. It does have a little bit of a hit going across the bottom serif, which is kind of unfortunate in that your bottom serif is affected by a little tiny hit. But this is going to be die number 1 for the day, die number 1 for the roll. take a look at the reverse and see if there's anything on the reverse that needs further discussion before I bag and tag this one and put it on the stack with the other RPM ones. Other die number ones. These aren't RPM number one. I have seen 1946D RPM number one. In fact, I found about 12 of them in a roll about 10 years ago. And it's a nice RPM. Really nice. This one goes to Thomas. Nice die number one there. Let's take a look at coin number 14 now. You drove to Nebraska and back 2 times yesterday? 17 hours of driving? I would be in such excruciating pain I'd be sleeping for days to try to get that one out. Okay, we run into another 1946D. This is a different die altogether again, I do believe. And this one does not have anything apparent on it yet. It's an earlier die state than the other die that we had found that didn't have anything on it. So let's get a marker on this one. There's a die dot right in the middle of the lower lapel, but I'm going to try to find something a little bit better than that just to be sure that we got a marker that's going to last. Sometimes if you pick a marker that's a very temporary marker, you end up losing your marker as you go through a bag or a few rolls, and you'll wish you had picked a different marker. I always try to pick one that's a little bit more permanent. Something like a die crack. A good die crack is a permanent marker. That's something that's not going to go away. Once a die is cracked, it's always cracked. It doesn't uncrack. I don't really have a marker on this one, but we do know that it is a nothing obverse. And let's take a look at the reverse and see what the reverse brings us. And again, on the reverse on this one, I've seen this die before. I know I've seen it during this hunt because of these die scratches running east and west through the AM of America. So I know I've seen this die. Definitely wasn't me. I haven't been to Nebraska in a couple of years now. So it definitely wasn't me. All right, Justin Bussman. And Justin Bussman will take this coin. And it does not appear to be a die variety. It is a pretty nice looking coin though. We've got nice color on these. This is the last year of the shellcase bronze Lincoln cents. We call it that because the brass that came back from the war was melted back into a bronze composition and used for cent production. Well, one of the things that shells have in common when you're shooting shells, like naval shells, artillery shells, is that the gunpowder contains sulfur. Sulfur tends to turn the color of the metal. You mix the sulfur and making coins, and you end up with coins that have a slightly orangish color. This is Clog the Drain. Now he goes by Son of a Silver Searcher. So I just put Son of a on there. Let you fill in the rest. This is die number 2 for the day. Die number 2 has that die scratch and that die dot down low on the part of the coat between the lapel and the shoulder. And it has this double split serif appearance. That is going to be a listable RPM. If it's not listed already, we'll get it listed, that's for sure. Oh, you were sitting on the stream for tomorrow morning? Yeah, you're going to be there a little while waiting for me to show up because I'm still working on this one. This is our feature roll for the day. Feature roll for the day is a 1946D. It's a plastic tubed original roll. Turned up to be a really nice roll. I gotta see if that was indeed die number 2. This is John Brandon Bowes die number 2 for the day. I want to be sure that I'm popping those into the same pile. And it's not. That was a die number 3. This is die number 2, so sorry. Coin number 16 for Son of a Silver Stacker, aka Clog the Drain. We'll go on die 3. This is die 3. Okay. Now for the next coin. Next coin goes to Silver Rufus. And Silver Rufus for coin number 17 will receive this coin. This is the late die state die that had no doubling, but is producing some relatively nice grade coins. I mean, these coins are nice coins, so nothing wrong with them. As far as you can tell, none of these are listed. Hey, this is the first one that has any spots on it. This one has a couple of carbon spots on it in the upper half. It's not bad, but it has some carbon spotting on it. Still a very nice bright coin, especially if you're looking at it from album distance and not looking at it at 150x. Probably got yourself a pretty nice looking coin anyway there. All right, let's take a look at the next coin in the roll. This goes to Thomas. And Thomas has one of the RPMs. This is die number 3. As I just discovered, there's your die scratch running east and west along the middle of the coat, and then you've got the die dot down below. That die dot's a pretty nice heavy die dot, but there's another one over on the lapel that's almost the same size that'll help us with further identification. And we'll now pause for station identification. This one has just a little bit of spotting. Not bad though. A little chatter on the cheek. Still a nice red uncirculated coin here with an RPM on it. Going to be a listable RPM, so we're going to get probably it looks like a pretty decent share of listable RPMs out of this roll. There's your connector right there, your E to your dot. That's the one thing that we were looking for on this particular die. This is going to be die number 3. It's going to be our 4th coin, die number 3. And it goes to Thomas. Move my coffee over a smidge. There we go. Yes, I come occupied and ready to work. I have crackers, I have tea, and I have coffee. James Worley, you got this coin right here. This is going to be die number 1 for the day. This is a RPM, and it's going to have a nice long die crack at the bottom of the coat. Zoop, right there. Nice happy die crack lives right over there. And it's otherwise, other than those features, it's a relatively normal looking later die state coin. Man, I did not miss the airplanes during the whole pandemic. We got them all the time now. Back to normal. Almost. I can't imagine what it's like being on an airplane right now. I would absolutely hate it. I don't like flying that much anyway because of the airports and the security and the all that shebang. Don't get along too well with it. But I can guarantee you that I would not like flying now. Stuck in a sardine can with a bunch of coughing people. Stonecutter, formerly known as James Dowdle, gets a die number 1. Nice looking die number 1. So we're going to have ourselves a whole schmear of RPMs in this roll. This is going to be a very nice, successful roll for everyone. RPMs in 1946D in nice BU condition, nice BU red condition, are going to be $10 to $15 items, at least. Could probably get a little bit more than that out of them. So this one for a stonecutter is going to go on the die number 1 pile. And John Brandon Bowe will get to coin number 21. Here's coin number 21. And coin number 21 is going to turn out to be a normal coin. Not a die variety at all. This is that one that's got the die crack running down through the hair. Sneezing on the TSA gets you through the line quicker. Thanks. Never figured that. But yeah, that could work. My whole thing is, I just really don't want to fly. I don't want to go anywhere enough to fly. It's not a fear thing. I don't mind the flying part at all. I did that for years in the Air Force, almost on a daily basis, so that doesn't bother me at all. Which one, Majestic? You want me to back out on any one of the nice coins so that we can see it? I probably did that before you came in. Okay, this one's for Shannon McCord. We'll take a look at this one. I don't even know what condition this coin is in yet, but we will back out and take a look at it. Got a little rim ding at 5 o'clock on the obverse. This one has a little bit of a woody striping going on that you can see running across the coin here. Just a little bit. So we got no variety on the obverse. Let's take a look at the reverse real quick. And we have, this is one of the very late dice date coins that doesn't have anything on it other than it's a nice coin. So we'll do what Majestic wants us to do here. I'm going to back up about that much, and we're going to zoom out enough that you can see the coin itself. A couple little marks out there in the field. It's not a bad coin. It's not a great coin, but it's not a bad coin. This is a 64 red. Couple of little flavor spots on the reverse. That's about it. About a 64 red, maybe a 65. We'll take a look at the next coin that way too. Before I move the scope back down, we'll take coin number 23. Coin number 23 goes to Chuck Patillo, and Chuck Patillo will get this coin right here. This is the next one in the roll, and well, it has a couple of little stains on it, but it's otherwise almost totally mark free. Got a little hit right on the cheek, or on the jawline. Another little hit in the collar. But man, these coins are super clean for a 1946 detubed roll. This one's going to be a late dice date coin. Let's take a look at the obverse again. And we've got no crack running along the lapel, so we don't have an RPM here. But we're going to move in just so we can see those details a little better. That way you don't have to take my word for it. Nobody needs to take my word. I can show you. Get this light knocked back down a little bit so we can see the details a little better. Okay, this is the one that has the die crack running down through the head. We've seen this die a few times. And this is Chuck Patillo. Hello, Bulldog. Got here just before halftime, did you? Well, we've got probably about a third of the roll so far has been RPMs. We've got 3 different RPMs that we're finding and a bunch of really nice looking red coins. So it's a very satisfying roll, very interesting and nice roll to be involved in. This one's for Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn will take this coin right here. This is a die number 1 RPM. This one's going to have a nice big die crack running across the bottom of the vest, or across the bottom of the coat. So there you go. You can see the doubling in the upper serif, and you can definitely see the doubling in the lower serif on this one. Pretty nice. Okay, now let's take a look at the reverse and see if there's anything that needs to be discussed on the reverse of this coin. Probably not. This one does appear to be just a little bit darker in color than some of the other coins that we've had so far. Just a little bit more brown. This may not get a red grade. If it were graded, it may be graded a red-brown. I don't think so. Looking at the coin itself, it doesn't look quite so bad. So this one's for Jeff Dunn. And we'll move on to the next coin. Coin number 25 is Halftime and Farm Dog. Farm Dog will take the next coin. This one looks like a roll ender. That's why I'm saying some of these coins are out of place because they're in a tube. But this one I'm pretty sure is a roll ender. Wow. That's nice. And this is not an RPM. It does have a little scrape here and there on it. Wow. Very nice. I've seen some markings on some of these coins that kind of told me that this might be a roll with some woodies in it that just haven't turned. Well, my thought is confirmed. We definitely do have woodies in this roll. Okay, this one's for Farm Dog, even though it's in the middle of the roll. It is an ender. There'd be 2 enders in this roll. Who knows where they are, because it looks like the order of the coins got stirred up just a little bit when whomever dumped this into the tube. I got this from a relatively recent source, so I've not had this roll for long. It's that die number 2, the one with the very close split serifs, upper and lower, that is eluding me. I found one of those so far, and I have not seen another one. Now, there have been a number of other times that I've been able to find something in a roll after I've finished going through it in the camera, and then I go through it with my microscope later, and I say, oh, well, there's another one, and another one, and another one. So there'll be 3 or 4 of them, and I just missed them because I wasn't necessarily looking for them. A lot of times, that's going to be because of distraction. I get distracted on something else, like a large double die or a large RPM, something really nice, and then the minor ones just tend to kind of float by. I don't really notice them that much. You know, it's kind of like a 6-foot iceberg isn't really going to tickle your tummy when your ship is sinking because you just hit a 50-foot one. Hawkeye. Hawkeye comes next, number 27. This is a die number 1. This is going to have the large die crack running across the bottom of the vest. Right there. I call it a vest, but it's a coat. The vest is in front of the coat. Actually, the part that's the vest is the part where the die crack starts. That part is the vest. Everything underneath the bow tie is the vest. This is called the lapel. This is called the coat area. And this is the shoulder. And then up here is the collar. And then the shirt collar, the jaw, the ear, the hair, the forehead, and then, of course, the face. That's the anatomy of the obverse of a Lincoln cent. Take a look at the reverse on this one real quick. So if we haven't done that already, I don't think. Don't have anything here to speak of for an error. Hawkeye gets a die number 1 for the day, RPM. Son of a silver stacker. How many did you get? You got 2, didn't you? I think you missed it. I think you missed it. Let's see here real quick. Okay, you're not in my normal coin stack, which means that I know you've gotten at least 1 RPM so far. You got an RPM 3 for the day. And that's all you've got so far. RPM number 3 for the day, and we'll probably run into more of them. So you'll know what you're looking at. You only got 1? Well, you got an RPM with it. So there you go. Here's Bulldog, coin number 28. I'll let you know when that die comes up again so that I can tell you that that's the die you got. It's one of these right here. This is die number 3 for the day. Has a split upper and a minor split lower that you can see pretty well. The marker for this one was an east and west die scratch on the lower coat. It's going to be touching the top of my screen right now. So it's touching the very top of the screen right now. So I'm going to move it down. See it? That's the die scratch I'm talking about. Right there. Touching the top of the screen. Now I'll move it down so you can see it. There it is. And then there's a die dot. We're right now touching the top of the screen. And I move it down. And there's that die dot. So you have the die dot and the die scratch. Dash dot makes us a die number 3. Sometimes you can use markers that are that minor and they will stay consistent throughout a roll. Sometimes they won't. So you're going to have to find the best markers that you can find and try to use those for consistency's sake. So like there's a die crack right there, running down from the E of 1. Now that would be on the other coins, but you'd have to flip it over to tell for sure. Without having to flip it over, you'll need to find markers on the obverse. So that's a die number 3 for Bulldog. Now Adam Connor. Adam Connor gets his next coin. This one is not an RPM. And it appears to not be a double die either. It appears to be a very late die state coin, as is evident by the fact that the 6 is nearly worn to a frazzle by the die, to the point that it's almost difficult to read. That happens very commonly for 1946. There's a number of different dates in the Lincoln Cent that the outer edge of the date tends to chip away abnormally almost. 1955 is the one that's real famous. That's called the poor man's double die, but there's a lot of them. 1953 is another one. 1946, 1929. Those are all very common years for the date to basically wear out. 1926 is another one. All right. Here's Deanne, coin number 30. Deanne's coin number 30 is a die number 1. We're going to have a nice long die crack running across the bottom of the coat. Right there. That should be an easily identifiable die crack for a marker for any listed RPM. That alone should be able to show us whether or not this has been listed or not. You think this die ended up as a cut at 6? You know, I don't know. I've never seen a 46D cut. But of course, I'm sure they exist. I've just never seen one. So there's another die number 1 there. That one goes to Deanne. Die number 1, die number 2, and die number 3. Now, die number 2 seems to be very difficult to find. I've only found one of them in the roll, but I found a number of 1 and 3. Let's see what we get next with Mr. Worley. This coin, this little coin of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Nothing. Got nothing for you. Sorry. But 'tis a very nice coin anyhow. A lot of these coins are turning out to be nice gem coins, or near gem. All beautiful red coins, that's for sure. I've only seen a couple of coins in this roll that even have spots that you would notice without magnification. Those are still just more like stains than spots. So in other words, we've got a roll full of pretty nice coins here. Adam Connor again, coin number 32. And coin number 32 is not an RPM and does not appear yet. Does not appear to be a double die. It's a mid to late die state coin, so it's a late mid die state coin on the obverse. The reverse is mid late die state, late mid die state, I'm sorry. Late mid die state means that you're almost nearing the late die state edge problem era, but you do still have some sharp edges, like right in this area there's still a sharp edge on the outside of the wheat, but over here you're starting to lose your edge. And when you start to lose your edge, you're starting to lose detail into late die state. So if you still got attributes of both, then you can mix it up, and it could be a late die state and a mid die state by calling it late mid die state. You guys are going to learn something about die state. I really subscribe to the whole idea of die state. I think die state is a much easier, better way of listing things, because stages can be confusing. Sometimes they can be very confusing. I prefer to use die state because you can look at a coin, say this is a mid die state coin. So if it's an RPM, I'm going to look for markers for the mid die state for the RPM. It's very simple. And this is a mid-die state coin, but we don't have an RPM. So we have nothing to look for markers. Even though we have a pretty nice one, we've got a die scratch running through the B of pluribus. And over time, you learn how to spot markers and how to make sure that markers are consistent. That package. Oh, I keep forgetting about it. Sorry. It's been almost a year. Wow. Really? A year? Did you send it to me in Florida? Because I lived in Florida a year ago. I thought you sent it to me here in North Carolina. I've only been here 7 months. Here we go. Here's another 1946D. This is die number 1 for the day. Again, die number 1 for the roll. And this one's going to go to Jim Fletcher. Another die number 1 for the day going to Jim Fletcher. Now, early die state doesn't typically have die cracks, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a die crack on an early die state coin. Die cracks would be something that would be a die stage thing. This is another die number 1. So die stage would tell you what markers showed up in order, but die state tells you the age of the die as it relates to minting coins. It is very likely that this particular die, this is our RPM 1 for the day, it is likely that this particular die minted coins at one point without a die crack going across the coat. And that die crack developed as that die was used. So if you're finding an RPM that looks exactly the same and it's in the same spot, but you don't see the die crack in the markers, it probably just means we have a later example of the same die's work. All right, this one has a minor split lower serif. I don't think this is not die 2 for the day. We only found one of those so far. All right, let me take a look at the reverse and see what happened on the reverse here. What Mr. Majestic is referring to is a roll of 1943D, I believe it is. 1943D Lincoln cents that were soaked in oil. Is that correct? Covered in oil. He sent for me to go through. I haven't done it yet, but I need to. I need to get that done. Get that little job finished. Bill Betts. I've just been so busy with so many things. Okay, Bill Betts has a normal coin here, as it appears. Don't see any doubling. Got nothing here. I'm going to flip it over and take a look at the reverse. And the reverse shows me normal coin. Very nice one, though. And that's coin number 37. 2/3 of the way through the roll. Adam Chambers. This one is does not appear to be an RPM. And getting around, we're going to take a look at the rest of there's a roll of 60 DOBW in there. I'll need to talk to you. I'll need to send you. I'm going to send you an email after this show. We'll talk about it. All right, that's Adam Chambers. Coin number 39 now. Coin number 39 will go to Bulldog. This one's Bulldog's coin. What does Bulldog get? Bulldog gets a hard time, but he also gets a nice but normal 1946 D Lincoln cent. I've seen a bunch of these that have that little die dot right above the eye. Looks like a doubled eyelid, but it's not a doubled eyelid. One of those types of things. This is the same die that we just pulled in the previous coin to this one. It had the exact same little dot above the eyelid. Hello, Shannon. Well, we've got 3 RPMs. One of them we only have one example of. The other 2 we're finding plenty of. And a lot of decent coins. Very nice, decent, full gem red 1946 D Lincoln cents here. Got Chuck Patillo. Hello, SJ's Mixed Adventure. I don't see you around very often. Love to have you come by more often. See what's going on here. This one's going to be a normal coin. Nice condition, though. Nice for a 46D, that's for sure. Let's take a look at the reverse. This is our late die state reverse coin. So this one, I'm pretty sure we've seen this die pair before. Another nice little coin there. And that's number 40. On to number 41. Number 41 is going to CM Silver. This is coin number 41. And we again do not have an RPM. A little bit of a woody on this one. You can see the stripes in the field. And when the coins are still red, the woody doesn't show up much. And so here we go for the reverse. We have a little bit of a spot on the right wheat. No double die reverse though. It's not highly surprising, but it's kind of disappointing in a way because I like the double die reverses on the 1946 D Lincoln cent. They're pretty nice. There's CM Silver, coin number 41. And move on to coin number 42. And coin number 42 goes to Alejandro. And this is Alejandro's coin. This one's a little spotty. Not real bad. Just a little spotty. This is a die 1 here. Die 1 has the lower split serif, a little bit of an upper split serif, and it has that long die crack running across the bottom of the coat. So there's a die number 1 for you, another one in this roll. That's die number 1 for this roll, that is. It's not going to be RPM number 1, and I believe this could have been a roll ender here. It's toned down like it's a roll ender. That's for Alejandro. Alejandro's done pretty well with die varieties since he started doing roll reveals last week. I've got a number of cases where his name has come up with die varieties. Here's Wild Bill. And Wild Bill gets, well, this is a die number 3. Die number 3 is the one that has the little die line, and that line right there at the very, very top of your screen. Move it down a little bit so you can see it. And then down below that is a die dot. The die dot right there. Move it down so you can see it. So you have that line and the dot down below it. Then the other dot over here on the lapel. So those are our, whoa, what is this? Huge scratch. Good gosh. That looks like it came from the counting machine. Alright. Well, Bill, we're going to talk about giving you credit on this guy. I don't want to sell this one to you. I'll just give this RPM to you and we'll work on credit for another coin. Oil is not necessarily a bad thing for coins, but it can be. And so I'm going to have to unpack this roll and see what's going on with it. We'll probably do a show with it tomorrow. We've got a tropical storm kind of moving through the area, and I don't know that I really want to go anywhere, even if we do have a house to go look at, which we don't. All right, Mr. Morrell. Showed up late. Let's see what you got. And we got nothing on this die. Nothing here. Well, that's it for that. Yeah, he sent them to me in the package. It's still sitting here unpacked. It's still sitting here in the original box, totally unpacked. I'm a horrible person. This one is a die number 3 as well. You can see the split upper serif there. So this one goes to Stonecutter. This is a die number 3. And evidence is our little dash dot. The dash right here at the very top of the screen. And then here is the dot at the very top of the screen. Move them down so you can see them a little bit better. This is die number 3 for you. Die number 3 for the roll. We're going to get all these listed at some point in the next week. I have a spreadsheet which is located at tinyurl.com/ccreveals. You go there and you'll be able to see all of your coins listed that I am hanging on to so that I can determine what their die number is or how to get them listed or making new flip inserts for them or whatever I'm doing with them. I've held them back from the process because they're more valuable than your typical coin. Mike Birchman. What do we have here? It's like just a late die state coin. Let's go take a look around and see what we come up with. Okay, got nothing on the obverse on this one. Let's take a look at the reverse. We're so late in the roll, I think we're just running into a normal die that we've run into before, and I'm not really exactly sure how to pick it out from the others because I haven't bothered to sit down and really study the markers on this one and pick a marker that will really work for me. As sometimes is the case with the normal dies because I just get I get a little bit rushed. And Wild Bill coin number 47. I'll see if you get anything here, Mr. Wild Bill. On coin number 47, this one appears. This is going to be a die number 2. This is what the die number 2 looked like. You got a minor split lower and a minor split upper. I don't remember our marker that we specifically used for this one. Was it, no, I don't really remember what the marker was that we used for this one. Maybe it was this die scratch under the G of God. Die scratch into the Y of Liberty. But I'm pretty sure this is die number 2 for the roll. And let's see here. That's going to be the second one that I've noticed. Doesn't mean there aren't more in the roll, but that's the second one I've noticed. And that one goes to Wild Bill. Now we're on coin number 48. Only 3 coins remaining in the roll. Jim Fletcher gets this one. Jim Fletcher's coin is not an RPM. This is one that's got the little dot above the eye. If I get it just right, you can see it. There it is. A little tiny dot just above the eye. That is a marker. It is not doubling. Take a look at the reverse, and I don't think there's going to be anything on the reverse on this one. But we have to check anyway, just to be sure. Seems like a very clean roll of coins. Very nice, clean roll. That's coin number 48 goes to Jim Fletcher. Now coin number 49. 49 will go to Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn gets this coin right here. It's coin number 49. And it is... This is another die too. You can see the very minor split upper and lower. Very minor split upper and lower. And there should be a die scratch below the G. Right there. Okay, let's take a look at the reverse. Nice clean looking reverse, but otherwise nothing. This one's going to go to Jeff Dunn. It's going to be a die number 2. It's our third die number 2, I'm sorry. Third die number 2 noticed so far. And we get to the very last coin in the roll. That's going to be Deanne. And Deanne will get... Well, it appears that this one also could be a die number 2. It is. Die number 2. Here's our die scratches below the G. A little die scratch headed into the Y of Liberty. So this is another die number 2. So we got 3 die number 2s right at the end of the roll. That tells me there's probably more inside the roll that I didn't notice that I will find later as I go back through the roll. But okay, so this was a very nice roll. This roll did us very well. We have a couple of dozen normal coins out of this. This is our stack of normal coins. Not very many of them, considering the size of the roll at 50 coins. These are the normal. Here's die number 1. Die number 1 with the nice little RPM. I'm going to go through the numbers here real quick for myself. Here's 27, 24, 20, 19, 13, 12, and 2. Now I'm going to go through the names for you so you guys can read who got them and who did not. There's Shannon, Mike Birchman, Thomas, Jim Worley, Stonecutter, Jeff Dunn, Hawkeye, Deanne, Jim Fletcher, Adam Chambers, and Alejandro. Die number 2, a little bit elusive through most of the roll, but right toward the end of the roll we found a few of them. There's 50, 49, 47, and 7. These go to John Brandon Bowe, Wild Bill, Jeff Dunn, and Deanne. Sorry. Okay. Now our die number 3 was actually a rather populous die too. There's not any real shortage of those in here. We've got number 45, 43, 28, 18, 16, 10, and 8. And on the other side, so you can read the names, there's Paul Hampton, son of a Silver Stacker, Tom, Bulldog, Wild Bill, and Stonecutter. Son of a Silver Stacker. I gotta get Paul Hampton's name flipped around here because, no, I don't. I thought I had an upside down Paul Hampton name, but it suddenly righted itself. That's what happens when you're going crazy. Tried to tell you that. So we have a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So that's almost half the roll. Almost half the roll was RPMs. That should make a lot of people happy. It makes me happy. Nearly half the roll was RPMs. What you saying, Shannon? Acquired a roll that I never saw before, and it says on the wrapper Hudson County National Bank, and it says it's a Batdorf roll on the wrapper. It's an end, but it has 1964 wrote on it, so it's an end. It's a tails roll. Is it medium to dark red? It's going to tell me a lot. Batdorf wrappers, a lot of them were red. And I mean red, not pinkish. I mean they were red. Yep. So you got yourself a nice Batdorf roll. I've got a couple of 64 rolls that are Batdorf rolled. I've got a 66 or two. I can't really get to them right off the bat. I tell you guys what I'm going to do, though. Here is what I'm going to do. I've got plenty of piss and vinegar left in me. It's 22:05. It's 10:05 p.m. For those of you who want to join, I'm going to schedule a show for 10:15 where I'm going to go through this 1943 roll. I'm going to find this package, open it up, and go through the 1943 roll now. So it's going to be about 10 minutes from now. I need a little bit of time to get it set up. So I'm going to go ahead and knock off this particular production, and we'll come back. So watch the channel for a little while, and we'll come back and take care of that 1943 D roll. I'll see you guys in a few.